Namaskar, welcome to Sansad TV. We begin a new program today, the World Panorama, where we take an in-depth look at major happenings around the world during the week, be it geopolitics, Russia-Ukraine war, environment, business, sports or entertainment. I'm your host, Rajiv Kumar Singh. Let us begin with the headlines. UK and European Union resolve thorny post-Brexit trade dispute, agree to Windsor framework to allow free flow of goods to Northern Ireland from rest of United Kingdom. Israeli government fast-tracks far-reaching judicial reforms, police crack down on protests. Migrant boat capsizes in Italy, over 100 feared dead. And Canada bans video app TikTok from all government-issued devices, says it presents an unacceptable level of risk to privacy and security. After years of wrangling, the UK and the European Union sealed a deal to resolve their thorny post-Brexit trade dispute over Northern Ireland. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen held a news conference to announce the decision.
Prime Minister Rishi Sunak told the British House of Commons on Monday evening that the UK and the EU had made a decisive breakthrough on the Brexit trade disputes over Northern Ireland. The deal, called the Windsor Framework, will allow goods to flow freely to Northern Ireland from the rest of the UK. It ends a dispute that has soured UK-EU relations, sparked the collapse of the Belfast-based regional government and shaken Northern Ireland's decades-old peace process.
Today's agreement has three equally important objectives. First, allowing trade to flow freely within our UK internal market. Second, protecting Northern Ireland's place in our union. And third, safeguarding sovereignty and closing the democratic deficit.
The deal also ends a long-running irritant for European Commission President.
The new Windsor framework respects and protects our respective markets and our respective legitimate interests. And most importantly, it protects the very hard-earned peace gains of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement for the people of Northern Ireland and across the island of Ireland.
Sunak still needs to sell the deal to his own Conservative Party and its Northern Irish allies. Northern Ireland's Democratic Unionist Party is boycotting the region's power-sharing government until trade agreements are changed to its satisfaction. Northern Ireland is the only part of the UK that shares a border with an EU member, the Republic of Ireland. When the UK left the bloc in 2020, the two sides agreed to keep the Irish border free of custom posts and other checks, because an open border is a key pillar of Northern Ireland's peace process. Instead, there were checks on some goods entering Northern Ireland from the rest of the UK that angered British Unionist politicians in Belfast, who say the new trade border in the Irish Sea undermines Northern Ireland's place in the UK. Hints of compromise towards the EU have also sparked opposition from hardliners who form a powerful bloc in Sunak's governing Conservative Party. Critics include former Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who, as leader at the time of Brexit, signed off the trade rules that he is now criticising. The present deal will give Northern Ireland lawmakers some say over the EU rules that apply there as part of the protocol. The thorniest issue is the role of the European Court of Justice in resolving any disputes that arise over the rules. The UK and the EU agreed in their Brexit divorce deal to give the European Court that authority. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
Moving to the Middle East, Israel witnessed protests over a contentious government plan to overhaul the country's judicial system. Large demonstrations and road closures were held by protest leaders on Wednesday, observing what they called a national day of disruption.
The Israeli government is fast-tracking legal changes that critics say will weaken the Supreme Court. A parliamentary committee is moving forward on a bill on the issue. Separately, the Knesset is also set to cast a preliminary vote on a proposal to protect Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu from being removed from his post over calls that he cannot serve as premier while on trial for corruption. On Wednesday, protesters blocked the main highway between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, halting rush hour traffic. At busy train stations in Tel Aviv, protesters prevented trains from departing by blocking their doors. National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir called on police to prevent the road blockages, labeling the protesters anarchists. Thousands of protesters came out in locations across the country, waving Israeli flags. The legal overhaul has sparked an unprecedented uproar, with weeks of mass protests, criticism from legal experts, business leaders, and the security establishment, as well as concern from international allies. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
Moving to what has been a recurring tragedy near European shores, it is feared more than 100 people, including children, have died after their boat sank off southern Italy. With 65 confirmed deaths, including 12 children, the tragedy was a rerun of many similar disasters where desperate migrants take to illegal means to sneak into Europe for a better life.
Wreckage of the ill-fated vessel that carried nearly 200 people, including 24 Pakistanis. The boat hit rocks and broke up early on Sunday in heavy seas near the town of Staccato di Cutro. Relatives of the victims arrived at Palamilone Sports Hall on Tuesday to identify the bodies of their loved ones. Around 80 people were saved, but could more have returned to the shore? Families of the victims are openly calling out racial bias.
All the people telling about their human right, because they have the black eye or black hair, they weren't human. I come from Germany here to looking what's happening for our family. And from one family, from 6 people, just one child and one man they are at leaving. All of them, the 4 people they did.
Italian rescuers said most of the migrants came from Afghanistan. Others were from Pakistan, Iran, Somalia, and Syria. A Turkish man and 2 Pakistani nationals are said to have sailed the boat from Turkey to Italy despite the terrible weather, and were identified by survivors as the main culprits of the tragedy. According to initial investigations, they allegedly asked the migrants for about 8,000 euros each for the deadly journey. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
In all the political developments across the globe this week, we look at stories from US related to Black history, North Korea's food crisis, Turkey, Sweden, Finland, NATO talks, Israel's closure of Jericho in West Bank, and a Pakistani court's order to arrest Imran Khan.
President Joe Biden on Monday praised African Americans in the United States at an event to celebrate Black History Month. History matters and Black history matters, Biden told an audience of Black Congress members and government officials. Americans can't just choose to learn what we want to know, Biden said. They need to learn the good, the bad, the truth, and who we are as a nation. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un urged government officials to engineer a fundamental transformation in agricultural production, state media reported, amid fears that the country's food shortage is worsening. Kim said hitting grain production targets this year was a top priority and emphasized the importance of stable agriculture production. Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu has said that talks with Sweden and Finland over their NATO membership bids would resume on March 9th. He said Sweden had still not fulfilled its obligations under a memorandum signed last year. Turkey in January cancelled talks with Sweden and Finland on their applications after a Danish far-right politician burned a copy of Quran outside the Turkish embassy in Stockholm. Israel closed access to the West Bank city of Jericho shortly after a motorist was shot to death by a suspected Palestinian nearby on Monday. It was the latest in a bloody string of violent attacks convulsing the area. The government identified the slain man as Elan Ganeles, 27, of Connecticut in the US. So far this year, 62 Palestinians, about half of them affiliated with armed groups, have been killed by Israeli troops. A Pakistani court on Tuesday issued an arrest warrant for former Prime Minister Imran Khan as the cricket star turned politician called on his supporters to keep up protests amid a roiling political crisis. The court in the capital Islamabad that ordered the former premier's arrest said Khan had skipped a hearing on charges of selling state gifts and concealing his assets. Other courts on Tuesday itself had ruled Khan was immune from arrest on separate charges.
Let us now look at world business developments this week.
Twitter has laid off at least 200 staff in another round of cuts. It said the tech giant cut 10% of its current workforce that it estimated at 2,000 people. This is the latest round of job losses at Twitter since chief executive Elon Musk sacked about 50% of its 7,500 employees when he took over in October. Japanese advertising giant Dentsu Group and 5 other companies were indicted over alleged bid rigging of contracts for the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. It comes after regulators filed criminal complaints against the firms and 7 unnamed individuals. The announcement follows months of investigations into alleged corruption in the planning and sponsorship of Olympics and Paralympics events. Tokyo-based Dentsu is Japan's biggest advertising agency. Canada blocked Chinese-owned social media app TikTok from government-issued devices, saying it presents an unacceptable level of risk to privacy and security. Canada on Monday also moved to block federal employees from downloading the application in future. The Treasury Board of Canada Secretariat said in a statement. Hong Kong dropped its COVID-19 mask mandate from March 1st in a move aimed at bringing back visitors and business and restoring normal life more than 3 years after stringent rules were first imposed in the financial hub. While the decision was welcomed by some, others said they would continue to don a mask. Hong Kong is among the last places globally to remove the mask mandate. At the MWC fair in Barcelona, visitors are getting to grips with some of the latest flexible display handsets to hit the market. The world's largest wireless trade show is showcasing an array of foldable phones that represent manufacturers' attempt to energize a market where sales have slowed. But the foldable models come with higher price tags and are likely to appeal for now mostly to tech enthusiasts and others at the forefront of technology.
Time for a short break in World Panorama. Much to follow. Please remain with us. Welcome back to World Panorama. Let us now look at all the developments from the Russia-Ukraine war that has just completed 1 year.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has ordered officials to tighten control on the border with Ukraine. This was after a spate of drone attacks that are creating a new challenge for Moscow. Putin said that the Russian-Ukrainian section of the state border should be under the special control of the FSB border service. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said the situation in the city of Bakhmut on the eastern front line is becoming more and more difficult. Bakhmut is a besieged mining city in Donetsk region. Recent efforts by Russian forces to capture the industrial city have intensified, with its troops gaining ground. Zelensky has stated that the enemy is constantly destroying everything that can be used to protect our positions. Zelensky met with prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Karim Khan, in Kiev. Zelensky prioritized the issue of the deportation of Ukrainian children to Russia. Thousands of children have been found in the basements of war-torn cities like Mariupol and at orphanages in the Russian-backed separatist territories of Donbass. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg reaffirmed the alliance's support to Ukraine. He urged a speedy ratification of Sweden and Finland's accession to NATO. Finnish Prime Minister Sanna Marin said the delay in ratifying strained the open-door policy of NATO. US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen paid a surprise visit to Kiev on Monday to reaffirm US support for Ukraine in its struggle against Russia's invasion and promote US economic aid that is bolstering Ukraine's war effort. Zelensky discussed with US Treasury Secretary Yellen ways to divert Russian assets to compensate Ukraine for war damage.
In climate news today, we look at stories from Norway, Brazil, France and Portugal.
Environmental campaigner Greta Thunberg and dozens of other activists protested against wind turbines built on land in Norway traditionally used by indigenous Sami reindeer herders. Several protesters camped outside the Norway Energy Ministry. The Supreme Court in 2021 ruled that 2 wind farms built in central Norway violated Sami rights under international conventions, but the turbines remain in operation more than 16 months later. A commitment to collaborate on preserving the Amazon was made between US and Brazil. US climate envoy John Kerry said without its protection, it would be impossible to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Brazilian Vice President, however, said the US has yet to decide on the amount it will donate to the Amazon Fund to combat deforestation. Climate activists in France chained themselves to the French Finance Ministry in Paris to demand cancellation of the debt of global South countries. The protesters also called for payment of a climate debt by developed countries to developing ones. They said this could help those states invest resources into climate change adaptation and away from fossil energies. The third largest footwear producer in the world, Portugal, has signed a first-of-its-kind shoe green pact. The innovation by the Volflex Group of Portugal that specializes in shoe soles scrambles to go green. This group is currently responsible for 1.4% of global greenhouse gas emissions.
Locals in a central Greek town doused each other with colored flour on Monday as part of an old carnival tradition. The flour war pits revelers against each other with tons of cooking flour tinted with food coloring.
Hundreds of people participated in Clean Monday celebrations in the coastal fishing town of Galaxidi, about 200 kilometers west of Athens. The event marks the end of carnival season and the beginning of the Greek Orthodox Lent fast. Revelers wear goggles and disposable paint suits to protect themselves from the sticky flour wafting through the air.
δεν είχα ξαναδεί τη σκόνη, αυτό το πανηγύρι που γίνεται τέλος πάντων, ήταν ένα τέλειο πράγμα. Εμένα με ενθουσίασε.
Across the town's harbour, hundreds more watch at a safe distance. The tradition is believed to have evolved from the 19th century during the period when Greece was occupied by the Ottoman Empire. Ottoman rulers had forbidden carnival festivities, but in defiance, locals would smear their faces with ash and dance in the street. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
That is all we have in today's World Panorama. Till we meet next time, take very good care of yourselves and keep watching Sansad TV.